I am Jason,
And I'm Jordan.
and this is not part of the plan. Your cat just like sprinted across.
I gotta
Your
deal
cat's
with this
awesome.
again. He's very happy with me.
Clark making an appearance.
How you doing today, Jason?
I'm pretty low today. I'm definitely down today, but it's important just to push a little bit. So
Yeah, last time we chatted, we were together in Nanaimo, and we covered a pretty tough topic. I know we've talked a bunch since then. If you haven't listened to our last episode, maybe now's the time to stop this one if you want to listen to it and go listen to that one. But Jason, I imagine there's been a lot that you've thought through as after the aftermath of posting that episode. I imagine there's a lot you're processing with it all too, and yeah,
it was definitely, I think, much harder on me than I thought it would be. So the way it worked out is like we did it, and then this has been about a couple of weeks since that last episode.
almost a month now.
Almost, yeah. I was gonna guess 3 weeks. You've been busy. We did some hiking, but yeah. So it's actually been good because I just haven't been in the mental space to just really think on anything podcast wise. So maybe that came as kind of a blessing to have almost a full month off from this.
Almost in a way, like that you need that recovery, I guess, after sharing your story, and the mental and emotional recovery that comes with that probably wasn't expected almost, but yeah, I think that's a real thing that you experience with trauma, right?
Yeah. And it's like it comes at such different times too, like I had thought about it for a while that I wanted to post it, but then I don't know, the aftermath of posting it, a couple of people reached out and which, was positive for sure, but it was almost like I didn't even want to discuss it anymore. Like that's where I'm at now. It's weird. Like we've talked about it a bunch, but I don't know. I just maybe that's just my brain's thing telling me like take a break from thinking
Yeah.
about this. It's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to explain for sure, but
No, I think that makes sense. And definitely won't dive back into it today. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of bridge that as we get to this episode, which we have decided will be the last one of this season, if you want to call it that, or just, we've been on this path of sharing our stories, and feels like this is episode 10, not including a couple bonus episodes. So feels like a good place to kind of reflect and wrap up on what we've been learning and what we've discovered as we did this whole project of recording these episodes, and just discussions that we've had. And like I said, we've really focused just on the story, the things that we've experienced and the ways that it's impacted our lives, and the day-to-day stuff and the long-term stuff, and all of it. So, when I think back, like we started this way back in March, I think. Yeah. And so, it's August. So that's 6 months ago, if I'm doing my math right. And that's half a year of us doing what I think is really hard work with this. That's not just to like pat ourselves on the back and be like, oh, good for us, look how hard we've been working on this. No, not even the time of it or whatever, just the emotion of it, right? I think it is hard work to do this together. And so thinking, wow, 6 months. I haven't listened back to any of the first episodes, but I'd be really curious to know, or to look back and listen again, and then maybe question what I was saying back then. I don't know if I'd still agree with most of what I said, or and I think that's why I've been careful not to make definitive statements about things, knowing that these things change all the time. But maybe maybe I'd listen back and I would hear myself again, just reflecting on where I was in that moment, and that's not either right or wrong. It's just where I was in March and April and May, and I think I have come a long way since then, in positive and maybe negative directions. Just I have kept moving. So yeah, I mean, it is a long period of time that we've been doing this. So I'm just curious if there's anything that really stands out to you in thinking about where you were at 6 months ago, and if you've come to any realizations about yourself or about life or about any of it as you reflect back on doing this podcast together.
I think the first thing that I reflect on, even just thinking about it now, is just how it came across, how it all came about. Just kind of like a almost just like a bit of like a vision, like, oh, it'd be fun to do this, and and then weeks later we go for it.
Yeah.
You know, for someone like me who can easily talk myself out of things quickly, I don't dream that big. It was a reminder that, like, it's easier to do things with other people by your side, for sure, but you're just capable of so much more than you give yourself credit to. And I think it allowed me to dream bigger, give me strength to realize that this is a tough time in life. This is a tough part of a journey that I'm on, and it might continue to be tough, but this just gave me a bit more hope each and every episode. I slowly got more hope. And yeah, I'd say I'm in a better spot, I think, with my mental health. But again, I think I've also just realized, like, maybe the most important thing about this whole journey is that there's no beginning and end to it. And I think that's really hard for me to realize. Like, it's a hard reality to come to the conclusion that these things, they don't define us, but they're part of us. And yeah, I think the old me would have just, that would have been so overwhelming to think about. And now I'm like, well, that's okay. It's a season. Tomorrow's a different day. Might be better, might be worse. It's okay. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a big one for me. So there's joy, there's being able to dream again, believe in myself and my that I could be, I don't know, more healthy person mentally. So yeah, it's like it's a whole new world, like just starting over, it feels like, but in a good way.
Yeah, thinking about why we started this, and you talked about how it came together pretty quick, like after you shared that idea, and then suddenly here we were doing it. And I think, we were pretty clear at the beginning. This is really for us, right? To connect and to discuss together. And so when I think like, okay, in these 6 months, have we accomplished what we set out to do? I really think we have. Like, I feel closer to you, Jason, than I have for a long, long time. So that connection with a really good friend, like that was something I really needed. So that's been really important for me. Someone to witness my story, and you've been that, and then people who do listen and who reach out even and say when they see me, like, oh, I've been listening. In a way that just is a comfort. It's knowing that my story isn't just fading into some background. It makes me feel less alone. And I think both of us recognize none of this was going to fix problems or make life measurably better or any of that. Like, or at least that wasn't expectations of what we were trying to do. The challenges that we faced in doing this, I think, have been important for me as something to put my heart into again, and something to challenge me with. And I guess you could use the word purpose. Not that this has, like, again, it's not the be all end all. We're not broadcasting to thousands of people or anything like that. But that's not the purpose that I'm talking about. The purpose of just even, us relying on each other to do this, committing to something and wanting to follow through with it. Those things I needed, and especially in the spring, to keep me going. And if I've learned anything this summer, it's that my capacity to go after those things has increased, in no small part to things like doing this podcast or connecting with family again, and being on the island and all these things. Like, when there's purpose, when there are things for me to work on and work towards, it makes it easier to get up in the morning and chase after those things. So none of that takes away the grief and loss, but I don't find myself getting stuck as often either, which is a good thing.
It sounds like there was no, what's the word? Like, we didn't put a lot on why we were doing it. I can't think of the word here. Like,
Expectation,
there
or
wasn't, yeah, we didn't put like a ton of expectation on what we were maybe going to accomplish with the podcast, if I'm hearing that correctly, which I think it was right. Like, that's a good idea. Like, just start, which is, I feel like, maybe the anthem of what the last many months have been for me. Just start in a direction,
yeah,
and then just see where it goes. You know, each day,
yeah,
each hour is a choice. And it might be hard, it might be easier. So, I mean, part of me is happy to hear that you're less stuck, and this has brought you some purpose, if I'm hearing you correctly. And yeah, I've said it a lot, but just to be in this space with you has meant a lot to me as well. It really has. It maybe just taught me what it's like to really just be there for someone and not have the answers, but just like your presence, which I didn't quite know what that meant in the beginning. Like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, but that's not the main purpose, right? The main purpose is just your presence and your love and your support that way. So yeah, that's I've told you many times, but like, being this close again has, like, it's meant a ton to me. It's helped me so much more than I think you could know. Like, being able to share, what I'm going through, and seeing that you have a space for me at times, that means a lot. It's hard to say whether or not I feel like I accomplished what I set out to do, you know? But then part of me is like, take those victories when you can. Like, to me, this podcast is a victory. It took a lot of energy, a lot of emotional space and thought each time I went on. It was hard. But then the sheer, I don't know, the joy afterwards, like, I accomplished another episode, you know, that's that's a win
yeah.
for me.
I agree. Um, yeah, when we started, I come up with the name of our podcast, not part of the plan. I'm not sure I feel any differently about that. I think I hear a lot from, not directly to me, but I've observed people, and I probably did this somewhat myself in the past, of trying to find meaning in everything, trying to find the reason, the purpose of certain things happening. And so when I think about what our stories capture, and what we've been sharing in these episodes, maybe there was part of me that was hoping, by kind of diving in together, by unpacking some of our story, we would find purpose to the pain. you know? Like, well, that sucked that that happened, but at least it led to this, or the silver linings piece, or the everything happens for a reason piece, all these things. That was something I probably held on to before everything that happened with Amy, trying to find meaning to everything and divine meaning to it. And then when Amy passed, and even leading up to that, there was no part of me that could accept that there was a reason for her pain and suffering, that there was a reason why she had to die at a young age. And I would say I still don't, I'm still not like getting closer to feeling like, oh yeah, it was part of the plan. I don't think I'll ever get there. And I think that's okay. I think for me to sit here and say there was a reason why she had to die at a young age, it makes such a statement that my life and maybe the good that will come out of whatever crappy situation like is worth more than hers, right? She had to do that so that other people or other things could happen that are good. And I don't I don't agree with that. I just can't accept that. And I could be wrong, I guess. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem legitimate. And so I still strongly hold on to the name of this podcast. That none of that pain that I experienced, she experienced, that you experienced, is part of the plan. And that might rattle a few people who I feel like really hold on to that statement that everything happens for a reason. You know, I think that that is something that can bring comfort when you believe in that, because then the bad things you go through, at least they had a purpose for it. But I just can't, I don't believe that at all. And the brokenness of this world is just that. It's a brokenness that exists, that causes pain. And human beings are pretty resilient quite often and can come out of those broken things, maybe wiser, maybe even stronger, all these things. But who's to say they wouldn't have got there anyways? Do you know what I mean? That's just where I just wanted to reflect again on why we chose that name for our podcast, and not wanting to paint over pain with this brush of, yeah, but it's okay because of any even small positive thing that comes out of it. Like, no, it's not okay. It wasn't okay before. It will never be okay that Amy had to die and die in a painful way. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in a God that loves her, loves me, and that is sorrowful, that just weeps with us. And these shitty things happen. And yet knows, like, okay, stay with me here. Because while the stuff on earth might not have much sense and might not have this good ending or this goodness of life, like that might not exist with this, there is something beyond earth. And that's the only thing that gives me hope. So that plan I can hold on to. All this earthly plan stuff, no, I got nothing. So
I'm glad that you have hope in something. I I definitely agree. Thinking back to why we chose that name, we were very adamant that, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we talked about it a lot, that this just was not part of the plan. That sentiment that it all happened for a reason. Someone just said that to me the other day, and I was like, I
did we just
couldn't.
call them out now on this podcast? Will they
I
listen to this
almost,
podcast?
I almost did, and then I was like, no, that's no my audience, right? Like, I get what this person was getting at, but it was more like that idea that everything happens for a reason is such a, well, all it does is it, again, it keeps you hoping, and it wraps it up in a very nice tight little bow. And yeah, sure, this might upset someone, but again, it's important for me to, I said this before, manage expectations. maybe that's the one biggest thing I got out of this podcast was learning that this giant journey into trauma and mental health and everything that I've discussed, it doesn't have an end. And maybe that's super negative, but like coming to that conclusion is much more realistic to me than looking at it from a start and a finish standpoint, which is what I did for so long. I looked at trauma as like, so what do I have to do to get to the end? Because I'll do the work. But then to finally realize that there isn't really an end, it's maybe you just learn to manage it better, you know? Like it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, like to look at trauma as like a linear path. Like there's a start and an end. Like goodness gracious. So then when you start going backwards, you've put even more pressure on yourself to be like, well, now why am I going backwards? I've done all the work. You know, my this logical part of my brain is like, I've done the work. Now it should start moving upwards. But it's like our brain does not we trauma does not work that way. It just holds the score in your body, in your heart, in your mind. And it's shitty and it sucks. And it's very clear this is where I'm at right at this point. But maybe just being able to name that, I just be like, yeah, I'm just sad right now. I just want to cry. And that's okay. I can tell someone close to me so that at least I feel a bit heard. But I really challenge people, try not to wrap it up into a bow. It is hard to hear that, but that's okay. I understand where people are coming from, but
Yeah. It is something that can make everyone feel nice to be like, it's everything will be okay.
yeah,
It's all fine. Here's the reason why this had to happen. And
yeah,
it just makes us feel like I get it. It's a crutch, right? I totally get it. I just don't think it's true. And I think you said something there that I had experience with a few weeks back. Again, like one of the things we've learned, and you said this, was how important it is just to be with somebody, not worrying about the right things to say or not to say. And I had a moment where I was really frustrated. It had been a few days, and I was upset that, I didn't feel like I was being understood, or that, people were kind of avoiding me in a way, or avoiding the emotion, because no one really knew how to bring it up or talk about it. And then I was sitting there, and I was sitting with my parents, and we are just kind of debriefing about the last few days, and I just got to a point where I'm just like, sometimes I just need people to recognize how much this sucks. And that just seemed to like open the door just enough, and suddenly like my mom and dad are just sitting on the ground with me, crying with me. And it's like, yeah, like, no, that's not nice to feel that. It's not like suddenly that makes things better, or this isn't making any logical sense. This isn't trying to find reason and processing what's going on, all this stuff. This is just me with my parents, who I know love me deeply, just letting out some emotion and recognizing how awful this year has been. And when that sort of thing happens, that's the closest I feel to anybody, when I can just cry with somebody. And it's not, it's not like people have to figure out how to cry, but what it reveals to me is this hurts them too. To see, even if it's not they are feeling the loss of Amy as strongly as me, but that my pain that they are witnessing hurts them enough to bring out emotion, like that shows love. That's empathy. And I don't know how to manufacture that. That's not something you can like decide ahead of time. Like, okay, next time I hang out with Jason, if he starts crying, I got to make sure I cry too. Like, that's not how it works. But when you feel something on behalf of somebody else, when it's their story, their pain, whatever, and it brings you emotion, like don't hide it, you know, showing that person your own emotion for their story is so powerful. And I don't know, that's why I agree, like, let's not try and find silver linings and try and just like, they're there, you know, keep your chin up. Like, no, meet that person with what they're feeling and just try and feel with them, you know, as best you can.
Vulnerability
Yeah.
isn't easy for a lot of people. For myself, it's not like we're
No,
perfectly vulnerable with each other all the time when we talk, right? So,
no, that's true. You did hold my hand once.
yeah,
I was vulnerable, Jason. I know. We've talked about that story before, but
it's a memory drilled into my mind. Someone did say to me when they found out I was going up to see you, like, oh, so like you're just going up to give him a hug? I was like, I'm just going up to support him in whatever way I can, like whatever that looks like. You know, let's not lose sight of that. Like in a nutshell, right? Like you said, we don't always have the answers, but I don't know, just someone's presence. That's what's helped me over this time, right? It's just knowing, oh yeah, doing this podcast with Jordan. I don't know how to do this. Okay, I could ask Jordan. There's two of us. Like
yeah,
that's the way I feel like when I think about my life right now. I'm like, I I have Viv, and I say that, and that's not to. I don't even want to say that because I feel bad, but to have someone else is important.
I'd rather you acknowledge that and hold on to Viv tight than just skirt around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's something I've learned, that just to be yourself and to be loved and to be seen and heard. That's not just I see that with Viv, I see that with you. Like that's you don't see that with everyone. That to me is worth more than anything. It makes me feel the least alone. It doesn't take the pain away always, but it may just help slightly, just slightly, maybe to get me out of that mood for an hour or so. But I appreciate you sharing that. I always try to have a space for you and
Yeah.
for us.
We're gonna have to hit pause here and then come back and wrap things up.
Yeah. We learned something new about Zoom. Yay. Yay us. Sorry, yay Jordan.
Well, you know, we have learned a lot from a tech side of things, but if we were to do season 2, whenever we're gonna take a break, I'm gonna go do some teaching. I'm working and then traveling to Thailand in December and January, in Southeast Asia there. So I don't know. I feel like maybe February, March, revisit if we want to do a second season. If we do, like, any immediate thoughts, what we would want to talk about, with season 1 being more about our stories. Season 2, any thoughts?
Yeah, to be honest, no, not a ton of thoughts. But I figured there'd be kind of a good chunk of time. I almost don't want there to be too big of a chunk because I'm just worried life gets in the way and then we might just be like, that was fun while it lasted, but I'd like to do season two. I don't know, just maybe think of some ideas, or I don't know, some topics that we both feel strongly about and discuss them from different viewpoints. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see us, yeah, kind of going that route more where we try and pick things that maybe we even do a bit more research on, or we try and just bring more facts about, and then weave in our own experiences into those things. This has
Mhm.
been kind of the other way. We just have talked about our experiences, but there, I think both of us, we are learning a lot, both through counseling that we're doing and through just life experiences in general, and doing some reading and things like that. I could see us kind of doing more of that side of things. Not so educational, like still trying to get a bit more of that personal touch to it, but maybe a bit more focused as well. So
Yeah. No, I think that's, yeah. I definitely want to do a second season.
let's make a plan, knowing that not all plans come to fruition. Maybe it won't be
It's
part of the
true.
plan to do season two,
Yeah,
but
it's true.
I would
I
I
mean,
would like to keep that option open for sure.
life does change. It really does. As I've learned, having one child that is 1 years old, that life does change. Um,
Yeah.
but I think if I had, not that I have expectation, but if I hoped one thing would continue, is just maybe that we make a point to talk every week and just check in with each other, because I think that more than anything is the thing that I have just grown to. I don't know. It's a important part of my life, and I've just really enjoyed becoming closer. So
Well,
yeah,
let's make it happen then. And I agree. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I really, really appreciate your friendship and brotherhood, and I fully expect we'll keep checking in on each other. But it's good to state that publicly and have some accountability here. So, yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
listeners, you can check in with us and say, "Are you still checking in with each other?"
And when you said you learned a lot technically, we've learned a lot technically. I'd say you've learned a lot technically. I didn't do any of the editing. I just listened to it
Oh
and
man.
gave no feedback. We both have strengths.
Yeah. I don't want you to state so publicly that I'm doing all the editing because then people know who to blame when the quality's poor. But
The quality isn't great.
it's all
Okay.
right. It can be better. It's okay. We're figuring it out. Hey, I just before we wrap things up, so actually tonight when we're recording this, which is will be a few days prior to the release of the episode, but tonight the school is going to be putting out some information about a legacy project for Amy, or for her legacy. There's a building project happening just outside her old classroom, her portable classroom, with some outdoor space. And there's going to be a nice deck area and a covered area too, and just a space for students to hang out, and more lunch and maybe workspace if they can go outside the classroom and get some work done. That those things are super important to Amy, like the cozy feel, the feeling safe in a space, feeling comfortable in a space. Those things are really important when Amy was a teacher, and so the school's actually, yeah, have been working with a landscape architect and doing some designing of that space, and they're launching the fundraising for it today. So I just thought I'd do a shout out to that. If anyone's listening and doesn't see it in other avenues, but you can go check it out at vcs.ca/Amy. And there's a video too that another teacher friend put together. Shout out to Jason. He's also Jason R, but Jason Reedike. And yeah, just some student voices of talking about their memories of Amy, and then some visuals of what the space will look like. So that's on YouTube as well on the VCS account page. So I just, yeah, if anyone's listening and wants to give towards that project, that would mean a lot to me. Price tag's like $150,000, so it's going to take some serious fundraising, but I'm hopeful that that can be a meaningful space for students and just carry on Amy's legacy in that way. So
It's
yeah,
fantastic. You'll have to send me that link
for sure.
to
We'll
donate.
probably post it on our socials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jason, it's been a crazy 6 months.
Really
Ups
has.
and downs and hard things and vulnerable things. And I just, yeah, thank you for walking that journey with me in a time where I really needed it. And appreciate your friendship.
Yeah. Appreciate you too for holding the space for me. Love to end it. If there was something you wanted to, I don't know, if you could sum it up, like if there's one main thing that you wanted to tell the audience, just as we kind of leave it, could you pinpoint it to one thing?
Hold space for each other, for your loved ones when they need it. Don't try and fix it. Don't worry too much about saying the right things. If you're anything like me and you're going through a hard thing, you'll remember the people who show up more than the things they say. Way more. I have no recollection of most of the phone calls and even cards and emails, texts, like all those different ways that people communicate love. I don't remember the words. I just remember that people showed up for me. So that's the most important thing.
It's amazing.
And how about you?
I was pretty happy with just ending there. No, I it was a really good way to end. Um, if I was gonna say anything in the end of this, it would be yeah, maybe just keep reaching out, find people or someone that you can trust, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable. It gets easier, and just yeah, just find someone to trust and someone that can help you bring you through those tough times. It won't take it away, but it'll help lessen how sharp that pain feels, and less pain, more hope. Yeah, I think that's my goal.
For everyone who journeyed along with us and listened along, thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to us, and just the way that you have given us encouragement and shared some positive words with us, that does mean a lot. So thank you for being part of our community and for following along.
Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Well, this has been
Not part of the plan.